The wedding night. Accusation. The drums had barely stopped beating when a shocking accusation shattered an entire village. Eliab had just married Miriam, the woman everyone admired for her kindness and purity. Their wedding feast lasted for days. Laughter filled the streets, and families celebrated what seemed like a perfect union. But before sunrise, whispers began spreading like wildfire. Eliab stormed into the town square with rage in his eyes. "I have been deceived!" he shouted. The crowd froze. He claimed Miriam was not the pure woman her family had presented her to be. Gasps echoed across the village. In those days, such an accusation could destroy a woman's life forever. Miriam stood speechless as neighbors who once praised her suddenly looked at her with suspicion. Her father trembled. Her mother wept. One accusation was all it took to turn joy into shame. But there was one problem. Eliab was hiding a secret, and before the sun set, the elders would uncover a truth that would leave the entire village stunned. To be continued. Part 2. The Gathering of the Elders. The news spread faster than a desert fire. By midday, the elders had assembled at the city gate, the place where justice was decided. Eliab stood confidently before them. "I was given a wife who was not what her family claimed," he declared. The crowd murmured in agreement. Miriam's father stepped forward, his voice shaking. "My daughter is innocent." The elders listened carefully. According to the law God gave through Moses in Deuteronomy, such accusations were not small matters. A person's reputation, family honor, and future were at stake. The elders demanded evidence. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. What began as gossip was becoming a serious investigation. Miriam watched silently, praying that truth would prevail. But Eliab seemed unusually calm, almost too calm, as if he believed no one could expose what he had done. He had no idea that God was already bringing hidden things into the light. To be continued. Part 3. Miriam's silent prayer. That night, Miriam could not sleep. The same people who danced at her wedding now questioned her character. She knelt beside her bed and cried, "Lord, you know the truth." Tears soaked the floor. She remembered the teachings of Moses. God is a God of justice who sees what humans cannot see. Outside, villagers continued discussing her case. Some believed her. Others had already condemned her. But while everyone focused on Miriam, no one was asking a critical question. Why would a husband make such a devastating accusation immediately after marriage? What if the accusation wasn't about truth at all? What if Eliab had another motive? As Miriam prayed, a witness prepared to step forward. And that witness would change everything. To be continued. Part 4. The Unexpected Witness. The next morning, an elderly woman approached the elders. She was known throughout the village for her honesty. "I have something to say," she announced. The crowd fell silent. She revealed that before the wedding, she had overheard Eliab speaking with a friend. He had complained that he regretted marrying Miriam. He wanted another woman. The crowd gasped. Could the accusation be a scheme? Could Eliab be trying to escape his marriage by destroying Miriam's reputation? The elders exchanged concerned looks. This case was no longer simple. Every new detail pointed towards something darker. Eliab's confidence began to fade. Sweat formed on his forehead. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. The truth was getting closer. To be continued. Part 5. The Law of Moses Speaks. The chief elder slowly rose and opened the book of the law. The crowd fell silent as he began reading the command God had given through Moses in Deuteronomy. "If a husband falsely accuses his wife and cannot prove his claim, he shall face the consequences of his words." A murmur swept through the gathering. Many had never heard this law explained before. The elder lifted his eyes and spoke with authority. Why did God establish this command? because false accusations destroy lives. They wound innocent people, divide families, damage reputations, and mock the justice of God. The words struck the crowd deeply. Some lowered their heads, remembering rumors they had spread without knowing the truth. Miriam stood quietly beside her parents, her heart filled with renewed hope. Across the square, Eliab's confidence began to fade. The very law he hoped would condemn Miriam was now turning toward him. Soon the elders would reveal the truth, and the entire village would discover whether Eliab was an honest accuser or a man hiding behind a dangerous lie. To be continued. Part 6. The evidence appears. Hours later, the elders gathered once again at the city gate to examine the evidence. The atmosphere was tense as villagers crowded around, eager to hear the outcome. But unlike the crowd, the elders were not interested in rumors or emotions. They were determined to uncover the truth. Every detail was carefully reviewed. Witnesses were questioned. Statements were compared. Nothing was rushed, and nothing was assumed. As the investigation continued, the case against Miriam began to fall apart. One by one, Eliab's claims failed to match the facts. His story started changing. Details he had spoken with confidence earlier suddenly became uncertain. His explanations grew inconsistent, and the elders noticed every contradiction. The crowd noticed, too. Whispers began spreading through the gathering. People who had once doubted Miriam were now questioning Eliab. The man who stood as the accuser was beginning to look like the guilty one. Miriam remained silent, praying as the truth slowly emerged. And as the sun began to set, the elders prepared to announce a decision that would shock the entire village. To be continued. Part 7. Truth confronts the lie. The city gate became completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye was fixed on the elders as they prepared to deliver their verdict. The chief elder slowly rose to his feet and looked across the crowd. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "We find no evidence supporting Eliab's accusation." A collective gasp swept through the gathering. The words echoed through the square like thunder. Miriam burst into tears. The weight she had carried for days suddenly began to lift. Her mother wept with relief, while her father raised his eyes toward heaven in gratitude. But the announcement was not finished. The elder raised his hand for silence and continued. "After examining the evidence and hearing the witnesses, we believe this accusation was false." Suddenly, Eliab's face turned pale. The confidence he once displayed vanished instantly. The crowd stared at him in disbelief. The lie that had nearly destroyed an innocent woman had finally been exposed before the entire village. Whispers spread through the gathering. Some were shocked. Others were angry. Many could not believe how close Miriam had come to losing everything because of a false accusation. Yet according to God's law, exposing the lie was not enough. Justice still had to be served, and what the elders announced next would leave the entire village stunned. To be continued. Part 8. The price of a false accusation. The crowd waited anxiously as the chief elder prepared to announce the judgment. The city gate was silent. Every eye was fixed on Eliab. According to the law given through Moses in Deuteronomy, the elders declared their verdict. Eliab would be publicly disciplined and fined for falsely accusing his wife and attempting to disgrace her before the community. A wave of shock swept through the crowd. Many expected the elders to simply warn him and move on. But God's law demanded accountability. This was not a small mistake. It was a deliberate attempt to destroy an innocent person's reputation. The chief elder addressed the people. "Let this be a lesson to everyone. Words carry power. False accusations are not harmless. They can destroy lives, divide families, and leave wounds that last for years." The crowd listened carefully. As Eliab stood before the community, shame replaced the pride he once carried. The humiliation he had planned for Miriam had returned upon his own head. Miriam stood quietly beside her parents. Justice had prevailed, but the pain of the accusation would not be easily forgotten. The village would remember this day for generations, and the story was not over yet. To be continued. Part 9. A village changed forever. Months passed, but the events at the city gate were not forgotten. What began as a scandal soon became a lesson repeated from house to house throughout the village. Parents used the story to teach their children the importance of truth and the danger of careless words. Elders reminded the people that justice could never be built on rumors, assumptions, or personal feelings. It required facts, patience, and honesty. Slowly, Miriam began rebuilding her confidence. The same community that once questioned her character now admired her strength and resilience. People who had doubted her came to respect her. Her story became living proof that truth may be delayed, but it can never remain buried forever. Meanwhile, Eliab lived with the consequences of his actions. Though his punishment had ended, the memory of his lie followed him everywhere. His false accusation had revealed more about his own character than it ever did about Miriam. As the years passed, one lesson remained clear in everyone's heart. When you attack an innocent person with lies, you are ultimately standing against the God who defends truth and justice. To be continued, Part 10. The message for today. Thousands of years have passed since the events recorded in Deuteronomy, yet the warning remains just as powerful today. The world may have changed, but human nature has not. A rumor shared in a conversation. A false post published online. An accusation made without evidence. One careless statement can still damage reputations, destroy relationships, divide families, and leave scars that last for years. God calls his people to pursue truth, fairness, and justice before speaking against others. He desires that we seek facts before making judgments and show wisdom before repeating what we hear. Miriam's story reminds us that truth may be challenged, delayed, and even attacked, but it will eventually stand. Eliab's story reminds us that every word carries consequences and that false accusations can return upon the one who speaks them. Before accusing someone, seek facts. Before judging someone, seek truth. Before spreading a story, ask whether it is true. Because God takes false accusations seriously and delights in justice. If this story inspired you, subscribe for more powerful Bible stories that bring Scripture to life, and share this message with someone who needs the reminder that truth always matters. The end.